प्रोग्राम नहीं है क्या?
नहीं, अपन अपन दिल्ली आए थे ना।
Hi everyone, a very warm welcome back to day 4 of the ITF community program. My name is Eugene, and this evening I'm joined with Pooja, and we'll be bringing you the 4th installment of this program itself. So today we're going to move on as a continuation from yesterday, where we covered the swim and the run, and today we're going to talk a lot more about cycling itself, and as well a bit about transition. So just to make a check that everyone can hear me, just type in a yes if you can hear me loud and clear into the chat box so that I know that we are all able to hear. Thank you for that response. And so we're just going to move into the presentation this evening. And I want to draw your attention right up to the screen. Okay, so I'm going to get Pooja to kick this off. Pooja, over to you.
Thank you, Eugene. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who doesn't know me, I am Pooja Chaurushi. I have been 7 times national triathlon champion, 3 times South Asian triathlon champion, and only athlete who has represented India in Asian Games and World Triathlon Championships. Currently, I'm working with World Triathlon as level 2 triathlon coach and level 1 technical official. And in total, I have almost 20 years of experience in sport. So today's topic is about cycling and transition. So let's take a note of the overview of today's topic. We'll start with cycling. So today's topic, we are going to cover cycling safety, skills for cycling safety, drills for improving bike handling and performance, transition process and preparation, putting everything together at the end. So before we start our today's session, let's take a note of this video. Look at this video and check what is happening in this video. Look at the speed and power that is mentioned in this video.
Hey everyone, this is Eric, and this is my Hamburg WTS 2016 racer. I had an awesome swim this year, coming out of the water in 7th place, then unfortunately had a bad transition. Came out of the transition in 17th place. The last 2 years I've missed the lead pack by mere seconds, so this was super important to me to get out of transition hot and make it into that lead pack. The first kilometer out of transition here is about 1 to 2% uphill, which means it almost always breaks the pack up right here. The swim is usually super close, but if you're not completely on the power looking forward, you're not going to make it in. The mistake I've made in the last couple years is looking over my shoulder for help, and that little break in focus is all it took. So right here, I still haven't quite made it into the pack, but about 400 meters later, right here, just before we make the left turn, head back towards the village, I make it in, Richard Murray makes it in, Mario Mola's there, so all the main players are in. That's actually an amazing swim for Murray, considering that he had a broken collarbone only a couple months ago. Anyway, not having him or Mola in the chase pack meant it wasn't going to come get us. Hamburg is known for being a super punchy bike ride, as you can see here. There's a 180-degree corner, a whole bunch of 90-degree corners, and that was just made super interesting this year by the addition of rain. Right here in the third lap, it starts to rain, and you can see Tommy Zaferes almost goes down on that corner, and that was really a result of people braking at different rates, kind of coming into corners. Some brake early, some brake late. Right here, Pozzotti goes down from Italy, somebody goes down behind me from Spain, and it is just carnage. Trying to adjust real time for how the conditions are changing and everything is always a trick, and these roads in Hamburg are super slippery. The problem that it was causing for me is that it meant the sprints out of every corner were super long and hard, and that's something I just haven't been able to put much on with the injury I've had over the last couple months. And I had to go more with the strategy I used on this corner, where I sat down through the whole thing, kind of stayed on the power, and didn't have such a high burst. So that'll be something that I work on moving forward for the next race. Here we are, about 300 meters coming into transition. This is always a super fast run-in, and with the rain, it got a little sketchy as people waited to the last second to take off their shoes and then have to slam on the brakes to jump off their bikes. I think that was João Pereira from Portugal going down, and a couple other people slid into the barriers as well. I came off in about 8th place, had a good transition, and for a certain amount of the run, I think I was running around 11th. The important thing to me was just to run as well as I could, feel like I was in my technique the whole way, and bring a good effort. That brought me home in 24th place, and I pretty much accomplished every goal that I had for the day. Thanks for watching.
So I hope you all saw that video. Did you all looked at that speed over there? Can I get yes or no? Did anybody notice the power and the speed that they were? So what do you think about it? How fast is it? Is it fast? Yeah. So now when we talk about cycling, so we all know that we may encounter some unavoidable accidents during our cycling leg, which can be risky. So when it comes to cycling, our safety comes first.
Wait. Okay, when you shoot now, don't take it.
Eugene, can you stop? Can I please ask all to keep your Zoom on mute mode, please? So back to our slide. So when we talk about cycling, safety is the most important thing. So which one is the most important gear of safety in cycling? What do you think? Which is the most important safety gear in cycling? So can you tell me what is the right way of wearing your helmet? How you should be wearing your helmet? I'm getting a lot of answers. Some are close. Yep. So whenever you wear your helmet, it should sit at the level of your head, low on the forehead, 1 or 2 fingers width above your eyebrow. So, and many of your helmets comes with the adjustable dial also, which you can fix it from behind so that your helmet does not move, even if you are moving your head. Then your side straps, adjust the slider on both straps to form a V over here. You can see in the picture, it's like way too loose, which should be a proper V shape under and slightly in front of the ear. Lock the slider if possible. Chin strap. So buckle your chin strap, tighten the strap until it is snug so that no more than 1 or 2 fingers could fit in there. So it should be that tight. Now I have another question for you. when you go out to buy a helmet, what are the things that you look for? Yeah. So many of you are close. Can you move on to next slide, Eugene? So when you go out to buy a bicycle, we look at a couple of things. Of course, durability should fit proper, but also it should be lightweight. Good quality helmet comes around 300 grams weight. They should also have ventilation so that the good air circulation and heat dissipation could be done so that your head does not get overheated. Now, how a helmet is made. So it has three major layers. First one is cap shell, made of strong, tough polycarbonate, ensures the uniform dispersion of the impact force whenever you hit someplace. The second layer is the foam layer, made from dense expanded polystyrene, effectively absorbs the impact force. And then comes the third layer, that the padded lining, which sometimes you can remove also. It's a dense mesh structure. It's like some kind of like, what do you got say? Some kind of pad, which is way too soft. Now let's come back to the correct way of wearing a helmet. It should sit low on your forehead, about 2 fingers width above the eyebrow. You can see in the picture how the helmet has been worn. The two side plastic pieces on the strap should fit just below the ear, just as it's shown in the picture. Tighten the chin strap such that you can feel the inside of the helmet pressing down on the top of your head when your jaw are half open. And last thing, the helmet must always be buckled. The buckle should be just under the chin, above the finger's width of space between the strap and the chin. Now, some helmets, as I said, comes with the adjustable lock behind your head. So that lock is a mechanism for back of head fit. It just keeps your helmet tight on your head. Now, once you're through with all these things, then comes the final check. Gently roll your helmet back and forth and sideways to see whether it is moving a lot or not. Ideally, it should not move more than 1.5 centimeter in any direction. So this is the right way of wearing helmet, and mostly we have seen people wearing it wrongly, just like the picture on the right bottom corner. Now, once we are done with the helmet, what do you think? What are the other things that you should be checking before you ride your bike? What are the other things that you should check before riding your bike? Yes, brakes, tire pressure, air pressure, paddles. What is ABC? Okay. Tires and brake. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right, Aryan. Okay, so once you're done with your helmet, you should check your brake, stem and handlebars, seat, chain, wheels, and tire. So how you check your brakes? You spin your wheels and press your brakes and see whether it is working or not, whether it is clamping on the rim or the tire. Then comes the handlebar and stem. You put up some pressure and check whether they are tight enough or not, or they should not move. Then comes your seat. Ensure it doesn't tilt. It should not get in downwards or upwards, or should should not move at all. Then your chain, gears, paddles, you should always keep them clean and in properly working position. Especially if you are going out for a rainy day ride, once you come back, make sure you clean your bike immediately after your ride. Then your wheels, it should spin easily without brakes touching them. And then, of course, your tire pressure. Again, during rainy days, make sure you keep your tire pressure slightly less to avoid any accident or slips. Now, let's move forward. So there are this few skills which are very much important when it comes to safety. Let's talk about start and stop. Always look at your back, sides, before you start or stop your bike to check for clearance and to avoid any kind of accidents. Then comes your braking. Braking is like most important. It could be emergency braking or anything. So make sure you learn those emergency braking, emergency stopping skills during your workouts, during your training programs. Because this is one of the things that could save you from any major accident. Then comes your cornering. Now, how many of you are aware of the right intended travel line for cornering? Does any of you know how we should enter in the corner or what should be our travel line? Well, second lane. So whenever you are entering any corner, the line of travel should be wide. You enter your corner wide, hit the apex, across the apex, take the narrowest possible lane, and then again you exit wide. So that should be the actual cornering technique. And of course, it definitely depends on what kind of corners you are into. It changes slightly, but mostly go wide, narrow, wide. That's the actual cornering technique. Your hands should be on hoods or drops to balance your bike in a proper way, and your inside leg should be up. Most of the time, people forget about the inside leg up. They put their inside leg down, which hits during your cornering, and you may fall. So make sure you have your body weight on the outer side of your leg, outer side of your bike, and your inside leg should be up. And once you are out of the corner, start accelerating. Now comes out of the saddle riding, which we also call off saddle. So during off saddle, the correct position is your arm should be on your hoods, your body should be upright with open airways, your chest should be open, your body weight should move forward. Use your body to maintain that rhythm and avoid moving sideways a lot. It's not going to help you in any way. I have seen many cyclists, they move sideways a lot thinking they are going fast. No, they are just trying to get hit or get into accident or trying to get skidded. Now let's move forward to the core cycling skills. So this core cycling skills has 5 pointers that you should be taking care of. Your head and eye position, your body position, cadence, paddle stroke, and shifting gears. Now, whether you are going in the corner or riding uphill or just going for a flat course, your cadence, paddle stroke, your gear shifting depends on what kind of terrain or what kind of technicality you are going through. Of course, your head and eye position and body position also depends on that. Like I just said, if you're entering your corner, is good if you are having your arms on hoods or the drops. Let's move forward and see some videos based on the skills.
While scientific literature might suggest that whatever pedalling stroke we choose naturally is the most efficient, it doesn't take a long look at the professional peloton to realise that years spent in the saddle develops a smoothness rarely seen amongst beginners.
So how do you improve your pedalling style without having spent years in the peloton? Here are GCN's tips.
Firstly, before you even get out and ride, there may be a few adjustments that you can make to your bike that will help. Make sure that your saddle is set to the correct height, where your leg is slightly bent at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Too low and you'll restrict the areas of the pedal stroke where you can produce the most power. Too high and your hips will start to rock side to side. Whilst you're looking at your bike setup, take a look at your crank length too. To find the length of your current cranks, look at the number that is generally etched on the inside of the crank near the pedal. Most cranks are between 170 and 175 millimeters long, although you can get some which are more extreme. Try to choose one which is appropriate for your height and which you feel most comfortable.
Once you're actually out riding your bike, you should consider how fast you're turning the pedals, i.e. your cadence. This will have a big bearing on how efficient your pedalling is. For the majority of the time, you should aim to be somewhere between 70 and 90 RPM. However, once the speed and the power starts to increase, that could go up to or even over 100 RPMs.
The faster your cadence, the lower the force is needed to produce the same amount of power. And by asking your muscles to produce less force, you'll do less damage to them, making it more efficient over longer rides.
If you ride in particularly hilly terrain with lots of steep climbs, you may find that you also need to adjust your gearing to allow you to keep your cadence at the correct speed. A compact chainset at the front and a cassette of up to 28 teeth at the back will allow you to keep pedalling even on the steepest hills. But even if you can't change your gear ratios, most of us can use our gears more effectively. A common mistake is to keep the chain in the big ring at the front for too long. It feels good to say you're on the big ring, but you can end up grinding away in a slow cadence when you could go faster with less effort in the little ring.
To make the most of your pedal stroke, you should try and recruit as many of the muscles in your legs as possible. You'll see lots of riders who simply rely on their quadriceps, this large muscle down the thigh, and neglect to use their glutes, your arse. However, there's a simple exercise which you can do before you head out riding. Simply lie on your side and lift your upper leg upwards and behind you, and you should feel it start to burn right here. Repeat that a couple of times on both sides and then head out on your bike.
You should find that when you get on your bike, you can actually feel that muscle start to fire as you pedal. As well as increased efficiency from recruiting one of the biggest muscles in your body, that muscle also acts to stabilise your legs under pressure. It helps your knee to keep tracking correctly, and potentially it will guard against injury. The final piece of the puzzle to pedalling smoothly is to isolate your upper body from the pedalling forces. Moving your torso when pedalling is a complete waste of effort, as it can't add any power to the pedal stroke. But it still requires effort to move. For many people, all it requires is conscious effort to keep the upper body still and relaxed whilst riding for only a few hours before it becomes instinctive. It makes a huge difference to your riding, and whilst there are even some poor role models even at the top level, it will make you feel good just to look good.
And finally, to get the smoothest, most efficient pedalling style, look no further than riders with a pedigreed track background such as Bradley Wiggins or Rowan Dennis.
It's not the riding around in circles which makes that style, it's the track bikes. Yes, fixed wheel riders, even fashionable ones in towns and cities across the world, can be developing silky smooth pedalling styles.
And to find out more about pedalling technique, check out this video, how to pedal like a pro. Don't forget to like it and share it. And to subscribe, click on me.
So, although paddling is a circular movement, most of the stroke happens when your crank arm is between 1 to 5 o'clock. That is 45 degree to 150 degree from the vertical arm length. So basically, it's like your quadriceps and your glutes are activated during that period. So it's like you push and pull. Your quadriceps, they get into force and then it gets relaxed and your hamstring pull the entire stroke. So that's how your paddling happens. Then like you might have just focused on one thing that they have mentioned, that low cadence can lead you to knee injury, strain, can also fatigue your legs for running. So make sure you have that optimum cadence, which is between 80 to 95 RPM. Let's move on to our next video. How do you select your gears?
Choosing the right gear at the correct moment is vitally important to keeping your rhythm nice, smooth and even.
So here's Eugeni's guide on how to improve your gear selection.
A large part of selecting the right gear is choosing a smooth, even cadence. And ideally you should look to pedal at around 70 to 100 revolutions a minute.
And in general, the more power that you're putting out, the higher the most comfortable cadence will be. But there are some exceptions. For example, if you're riding along flat road with a tailwind, or if you're cruising along in a bunch in either a race or a sportive. There are, however, some occasions where you might find a lower cadence is more comfortable. Many people, myself and Matt included, find it a little bit easier just to drop down a couple of gears harder before we get out of the saddle.
It's easier to ride out the saddle in a higher gear, and it also guards against this. Dropping back into the rider behind, just lean on the pedals using a bit more force to keep the forward momentum going far better.
If you live in a particularly hilly area, you might find that you have to alter the gear ratios that came as standard on your bike in order to maintain the correct cadence. Check the front chain rings for a 34 or 36 inner ring and the cassette at the back for a 28 large sprocket. These ratios will allow a seasoned rider to climb almost anything, but there's certainly no shame in smaller gears if you need them. Only the very best and most expensive gears can handle changing under load, and even then it's not a great idea. However, it can be unavoidable in real-world racing, where sometimes you're going to have to shift in an emergency. There is a trick, though, that enables you to do it when you have to. Put in a couple of strong pedal strokes and accelerate just very slightly, even if you're on a steep climb. This is really important. It allows you to then ease the pressure from the pedals whilst you quickly shift gears. It might be that your acceleration didn't give you enough time to change, and if that's the case, you're going to be slowing down while you keep the pressure off. Of course, the best way to avoid changing gear under pressure is to anticipate what's ahead. You should always be scanning ahead of you for various reasons, and gear changing is another thing to consider.
On the approach to a steep hairpin bend, it's vitally important you get the gear selection early and don't get caught in a large gear on the apex of the corner. Pedaling a high cadence around a hairpin bend lets you keep on top of the gear nice and smooth.
Sharp corners downhill are another common situation where you can find yourself overgeared on the exit. Try to get into the habit of changing into an easier gear before you start braking for the corner. Just shift a few cogs up at the back so that when you kick out of the corner, you can accelerate much more effectively. A final common situation where you can easily find yourself overgeared is accelerating away from a road junction. There are occasions where anticipating stopping can't be done, so if that's the case, consider changing gear while stationary. To do this, apply the front brake and rock the bike forward, lifting the back wheel off the ground. Making use of your clipless pedals, use one foot to turn the cranks and change into an appropriate gear. You'll end up doing this in such a slick way that it almost looks like you did it on purpose.
There's no way of telling what gear should be used in a given situation, as it depends on a rider's personal ability. But if you can keep your cadence in this region, you know you are doing okay. For most riders...
So now, I hope you guys have better idea about how to choose your gears. There is one thing that I would like to share with you, that please avoid cross chaining. When I say cross chaining, it's like using small chain ring and small sprocket, at the same time large chain ring and large sprocket. It increases your wear and so avoid small chain ring and small sprocket, and avoid large chain ring and large sprocket. It increases wear and friction, making it harder to cycle. And also you may hear some chain rubbing on front derailleur. So try avoiding that. So now, once we are through with gears and paddling skills and all, then comes the most important thing when you are out on cycling. That's bike handling skills. Like we all know that how important is bike handling. If you are good with that, you can save yourself in traffic, you can ride efficiently in tight packed situations, can go easily through the speed breakers, even the emergency situations could be easily manageable, or at least you won't end up having any worst accidents. And this is most important in technical course if we talk about racing. So what are the drills for bike handling? One-handed drill, riding in a straight line, slow riding or balancing, bunny hops, and counter skidding. So in the next video, we are going to go through each one of this and understand how to do them and where you can use them. So remember, Eugene was talking about skills day before yesterday on a Tuesday session. So this is one of the things that you can make your athletes, your young kids do in grass. So you should take them on grass, set up a course, make them do all this kind of drills, because it gets easier for kids to get through all those kind of drills, to understand them, to be very good with them. Because one, they don't have fear at that very young age. So they can do and they can experiment with these drills even better than any adult out there. So this is one of the things that I suggest all the coaches over here should make your athletes do, because this is most important one. As we saw in our very first video of Hamburg, there were many accidents in that pack. But still you saw like a couple of riders, they could pass through it, they could save themselves. It's all because they had very good bike handling skills. So this is one of the most important thing if we are talking about World Triathlon elite races or draft legal races. Of course, for Ironman athletes, you have like good space, you can ride by your own. So you might not need this kind of things much, but of course, maybe it could be helpful to you during your practice sessions when you go out in traffic. So this was all about cycling. Eugene, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I've just got 2 points for all of you out there. So one, if you're working with age groupers, whether or not they're doing standard distance racing or long Ironman type racing, I think it's also very important because the majority of long course athletes have very poor riding skills on the road. And if you are well equipped, your athletes could actually save themselves from an accident. So why are long course athletes so poor on the road? Primarily because they don't practice bike handling skills enough. So most Ironman guys, age groupers, they tend to just be very focused on the volume. And so that's one of the limitations that will come along. So my suggestion would be, regardless of whether you're working with juniors, elite, or age group long course athletes, I think it's a very important skill to develop bike handling skills. Number two, just a bit on what Pooja mentioned earlier about introducing these kind of very technical, skillful things when they are young. I'll just share a little bit about my side. So all the guys who are riding, who rode with me, all of them did a lot of work on a grass patch, on an even grass patch. And so we did transition, we did we even played catching on the bike. We did bumper bikes, not bumper cars, bumper bikes. And we played, we drew a square and we could see 10 guys in the square who would knock each other out until the last guy stands. So we played such games where we focus a lot on coordination, balance, and excellent bike skills. And these skills stay with them many years. Yeah. One other thing as well, and this is from Manohar. Yes, one of the things you want to expose, especially if you're trying to develop good skills with young athletes, to get them on off-road. So if your guys have the opportunity to ride on the trail, mountain bikers are very skillful. When you get on the road, riding a road bike is very, very simple. So that's another way, which is fun as well. In the off season would be to take your younger athletes out on maybe a less technical trail and get them to do lots of mountain biking. Mountain biking as well builds a lot of strength and power, which is very good for explosive movements, especially on the road bike itself. So that's from me, 2 things. I hope you managed to pick something up. All right, so any questions? Otherwise, let's take a very short break. We'll come back in 5 minutes. So go grab a drink, quick stretch, and we'll come back to the second part of this evening, a little bit about transition. Okay, so see you in a while. Let's be back in 5. Cheers, guys. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So if you can actually hear me and if you're good to start, let's type in a T into the chat box so that I know that we're good and ready for transition. Thank you, guys. Before just that, there was one question in the text box, and you were asking about what do you do if you get boxed in? Pooja, do you want to grab that? What happens when you get boxed in?
Yeah. So whenever you get boxed in, first of all, this bike handling skills helps you a lot to be able to save yourself from anything worst.
Crashing.
And of course, you have to start finding ways to get out of it. There are multiple drills available for that kind of training also. Like we do the shoulder to shoulder drill or arms to arm drill, where athletes are riding too close to each other. And in that kind of scenario, you get that chance to get out of that box. So these are the other drills that you can use and train your athletes to deal with this kind of situations and get out of that kind of situation.
Yeah, so just to add on Pooja's point, for some of you, I'm quite sure you watched Tour de France, which just happened 1.5 weeks ago. And it's the same in the triathlon peloton at elite levels. So in excess of 40-45 kilometers per hour, when you get boxed in, shoulders are side by side. So you're actually in contact with a rider on the left and the right. And there's a lot of action between the handlebars because handlebars can get locked up. Same with your cranks. Your crank can be in someone else's crank. And so you obviously need excellent, not good, excellent bike handling skills to make sure that you, number one, don't cause a crash. Number two, be in the game. So I hope that gives you a better idea, and it's very, very important. You might not experience that as an age group athlete, but as I said, these skills come in very handy, especially when you're also training, trying to keep yourself safe in traffic itself. Okay, so I hope that's a good one. It's a great question. Thanks for asking that. I'm going to bring you guys back to the next segment, and we are going to look at transition. So let me just set my slide up. And I hope you can see. So
yeah,
wrong. We have to go back to here. Okay. So I'm not just going to play this video for the sake of playing this video. Yes, it's transition, and I always like to link things up right up from day one. So we talk about skills, we talk about speed on the first day, and we moved on to swimming and running. I'm just going to play this very short video, and I'm going to start a little bit from the swim, and I'm going to shortcut it right up. And I'd like you to just look what happens in transition. And after this, we're gonna ask some questions, what you think of that, and what some of the skills are required to have good transition. All right. So enjoy the video. This should be in Yokohama, way back on Olympic year. Okay, that was in last Olympic Games. So this is Yokohama.
Yokohama, Japan not only marked the 4th event on the 2016 WTS calendar, but also the final race in a 2-year Olympic qualification period. With several athletes still looking to book a place in Rio, this was a final chance to impress. The harbour waters were choppy for the 2-lap 750-metre non-wetsuit swim. The USA's Gwen Jorgensen, racing in her second race of the season, was nicely tucked into the pack. A long stream of women exited the water together, but it was Jorgensen's fellow American Summer Cook that led them out, followed by New Zealand's Nikki Samuels. Nothing much between the field as a large group headed to T1. Jorgensen was among them as she searched for a 4th straight win in the Japanese venue. As they set off on the 9-lap bike circuit, which started on the harbour front, it was a large group of 40 women that would ride together for the majority of the race. Out onto the highways and into the downtown section of the race, there was still no splitting the large field as they rounded the 180-degree turn. The majority of the race had seen the large group stay together, so it was a congested T2 as they prepared for the 10k run. Andrea Hewitt, who finished 3rd on Gold Coast, had got herself to the head of the pack, but as she prepared, she would have known that Jorgensen right beside her was also in the mix. The first group, led up by Ayu Ada from Japan, contained Jorgensen, Hewitt and Australia's Charlotte McShane and Ashley Gentle, among others. Ueda soon had Jorgensen breathing down her neck as the American's easy running style saw a breeze past the Japanese. Jorgensen, whose winning streak was ended by Helen Jenkins on Gold Coast, was in no mood to let another win escape her. The American was now running at a pace that no one could get near to as she stretched her lead kilometre by kilometre. After just over 32 minutes on the run, Jorgensen took the finishing chute to record another win with a lead of over a minute and record the fastest 10k women's run split over the course. And with just 3 months until Rio, she will surely head to the Olympics as favourite for the gold medal.
Okay, the show ends. Yeah, unfortunately. Now everyone's excited. So I hope you managed to pick up some things. And as I said, I like to always put what we covered from the day before. So you saw the swim, and from the swim there was transition, and then there was a bike. Many things which Pooja just spoke about just now. So some of the questions about riding the pack, the cornering, the skills, the ability to ride out of the saddle were all there. And then we came into transition 2. And you saw that. So very quickly now, I'd like you to type something, one thing you did not know about transition until you watched the video. Type it in the chat and just share that with everyone that you picked up, or it was the first time you're seeing it. So I'm going to give you just 10 seconds. Everyone type something in the chat box, something new that you found just watching the transitions in that video. Go ahead.
I think there was nothing new. They all knew everything.
Nothing?
Nobody's typing anything.
Did you watch the transitions? Nothing? So my next question, if there's nothing new, could all of you do the transition like that? Or are all your athletes doing transition like that? Type a Y for yes, N for no. Yes. So how long was the transition? A bit slow. Okay, so their transition is all less than 10 seconds. Yeah, so if you're doing it in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, that's too slow. Everything out there is 10 seconds. Okay, so interesting. So the transition, anyone saw something new? No comments?
Did anybody found anything new that you are not doing in your transition? Nothing. Everyone's doing this exactly the same.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you guys.
That's
I'm going
great.
to show you the.
That's great.
I'm going to show you one more time. Watch the transitions. There are two transitions. Watch the transition carefully. Okay. And my question would be, are you currently doing everything they are doing in transition now? Same time, same speed, same ability, how they mount the bike and how they get off the bike. Because on the weekend, we will also talk about rules and regulations. And it's not getting off when you want to and where you want to. Okay, so I'm gonna show that one more time. So let's go back to the back slide. I'm just gonna replay this. I'm gonna fast forward just to watch the transition, guys.
But it was Jorgensen's fellow American, Summer Cook, that led them out, followed by New Zealand's Nikki Samuels. Nothing much between the field as a large group headed to T1. Jorgensen was among them as she searched for a fourth straight win in the Japanese venue. As they set off on the 9-lap bike circuit on Gold Coast, the majority 180-degree turn. The majority of the race had seen the large group stay together, so it was a congested T2 as they prepared for the 10K run. Andrea Hewitt, who finished third on Gold Coast, had got herself to the head of the pack, but as she prepared, she would have known that Jorgensen right beside her was also in the mix. The first group, led up by Ayu Ada from Japan, contained Jorgensen.
Okay, I'll give you another chance. Type something which you saw in transition that you only saw for the first time. Take bib. There's no bib in elite races. They don't wear bibs. Elite guys, no requirement for bibs. Run with the bike. Thanks. Anything else? Shoes. Where were the shoes? Shoes are clipped on. Nice. Thanks. What else? Smooth mount and dismount. Okay, can you tell us a little bit about smooth mount and dismount? What does that mean? Did the bike stop to mount? Did the bike stop to dismount, or the bike was moving all the time?
No, sir, they were constantly in motion.
Okay. Helmet, no helmet. Only when you touch the helmet, then you can ride. Okay, good one. Anything else? Very fast. Some of them are directly. So Harish, I'll help you. All of them, not some. All of them, bike shoes are on the bike. Yes, you're right. You can't touch the bike until you wear a helmet. So it's helmet first. Couple more points. There are 110 of you here. No aero bars on bikes. Okay. Yes, helmet has to be on. Right, kid, safety first in a very complex situation. So these are things which I'm sure many of you have seen, or even more. You might not be able to type that down, that's fine. But it's very important to pick up the skills. And I'll just time you, the slowest person out of transition is 10 seconds. If he messes up, 15. Okay, so they don't put on the shoes before they mount the bike. They wear their shoes when they are cycling. They wear their shoes when they're cycling. How fast are they going before they start wearing the shoes? Probably 40 kilometers per hour. Then they start wearing their shoes. About 40. When you hit 40, then they start wearing the shoes. Okay, so I'd like you to think about these things again. What kind of skills are required to develop this kind of speed in transition? Okay, this is something most of the time you will not see in Ironman races because it is not so important. In Ironman races, people tend to rest a little longer because it's a very, very long race. They eat, some of them change, wash their hair, have a sandwich. Okay, but yeah, So there's something which we will talk about later on at the end. Pooja will remind me that why is it so important to get out of transition fast? Why? Okay, think about that. So I'm just going to carry on, guys. I hope you get thinking. So my slides come back up. What happens in, what happens in transition? So if someone can tell me what happens in transition. So I'm going to walk this through with everyone. You get out of the water, you remove your goggles and your cap. As you're running out, you run into transition. If you're wearing a wetsuit, you have to remove the top of the wetsuit as you enter. If you're not, you still carry on running. Okay, you reach your bike. What do you do now? You put your goggles and your swim cap into the basket. You put on your helmet. If you can't ride with your shoes on, you put on your shoes. You unrack your bike and you start running your bike. Okay, you can only mount your bike at the mounting line. You're not allowed to ride in transition area. It goes across any triathlon race. So you mount the bike safely. If those of you who have clipped your shoes on, you will cycle and put your shoes on at the same time. Start thinking of what kind of skills required. You finish your bike ride, you dismount with the bike. You need to dismount and get off the bike before the dismount line. So you cannot ride in transition area and you have to run with your bike. Find where you need to put your bike. It's not any bike rack, it's your bike rack. So you have to navigate and put it back in the correct place. Remove your helmet, put on your running shoes, and then you do your run. So how many things happen? How many things need to happen before you start cycling? Can someone tell me? Type a number in. Yeah, 6 things, 6 to 7 things before you touch your bike. When you get off, when you want to get onto the run, you need to do another 5 to 6 things. Okay, so this is my question to all of you. I hope you will walk away, not by today, but the end of the week, to acknowledge that triathlon is not 3 sports. It's actually 4. But it's considered as 1. So you cannot swim separately. You cannot just cycle separately or run separately. You have to include all 3 as 1, and there's 2 transitions between. And the problem with a lot of triathletes is they don't practice transition. You cannot expect to be fast if you do not practice it fast. If you practice it slow, you will do it slow. One guy to watch out for is Norwegian Christian Bammerfield. You will see him at this Olympic Games. When he was a junior at 16 years old, every night at the camp, he would mount and dismount his bike at full speed 100 times a night, 100 times a night. Okay, and this went on for 2 weeks. And if you look at him today, Christian Bammerfield, if you can remember his name, you will look at how fast he transitions. And he's not the only one. A lot of guys do that. So it's not practice makes perfect again, guys. If you remember, it was perfect practice that makes perfect. Okay.
I have
Cool.
a question over here.
Yes.
I would like to ask a question. How many of you actually practice transition? Or the coaches, how many of you have transition as one of the training session for your athletes? When you do, how many times do you do? Are you like doing it in a regular training or just before the race?
Yeah, 2 to 3 times a month before the
Before
race.
the race, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sabda, Tamil Nadu triathlon practices regularly.
Twice a week.
during bricks. So
Yeah.
Anelo, how many times do you do bricks? Yeah. Okay, so there's no right and fast rule. Great question from Pooja. There's no hard and fast rule, but the question would be how much you practice equates to how good you'll be at that skill. And it's a skill. So Rajdeep, nice work. Twice weekly. Well done. Don't forget, have you seen how fast they mount and dismount? It's very easy to teach this skill to younger kids who are, as Pooja mentioned, no fear. Number two, they have a high level of skill acquisition because of the period of accelerated adaptation. Remember, LTAD. And number three, when they are using smaller bikes, like their mountain bikes or their BMX bikes or whatever small bikes they're using, the center of gravity is lower. So they're closer to the ground. So when they start learning with their normal bikes, it's very simple. And over the years, as they start growing, it becomes second nature. Just like that. Okay, cool. I hope you have your thinking caps on. So what are the transition rules? So we're going to go into this on the weekend with all the rules in triathlon.
Yeah.
So I have our teammates who are going to present that. But before we go into that, what are main rules of triathlon in transition? So this will be your homework because on the weekend, you're going to be tested. Okay, so find out what are some of the main rules in triathlon. What are the penalties in transition especially? Okay, is there any equipment you need? And from an object of transition, from an athlete's perspective. So I'll give you one hint. Someone mentioned this earlier. If you touch your bike before you put your helmet on with the straps on, if you do touch your bike before the chin strap goes on, you pick up a penalty. Okay? Yeah, that's an example of what happens. So if you can, try to find out what are some of the penalties that happen, especially in transition. Pooja, do you have any questions on this you wanted to add on earlier? I'm giving them as homework.
Yeah, sure. It's just one thing about the penalties I would like to tell. There is two different things for an elite athlete and of course an age grouper or a para triathlete. So for elite athletes, yeah, they do get penalties, but those age groupers and para triathletes, you are lucky, you get warning and you just have to amend it. So that is one of the plus point. And of course, go ahead and find what kind of penalties can you get in transition. You're on mute, Eugene.
Let's revisit what happens in the transition process. Okay, so I want to visit the swim. So remember we spoke about the swim. So when you exit out of the water, it's called T1, transition 1, depending on what the swim is about. So if it's in a swimming pool, you need to understand that when you get out, it can be slippery or crowded. Okay, if you swim in the sea or in the ocean, there is definitely current. So Pooja, do you have any races that has a lot of surf current happening now in India?
Not in India, but I did have
Goa?
during my Asian. Goa was kind of flat.
It's flat. Okay, so Goa's flat. So
Yeah,
maybe not a lot of current. Sabda, I'm not sure in Tamil Nadu side whether there's a bit of current. I remember in Chennai.
I have done one training session at East Coast like years back, and we had very good current over there in Chennai.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a safety issue, and also your swimmers need to have the skills and the ability to swim against current. Okay. So when they come out also, because of the waves, the way they run out is also important. Then I think a lot of the races in India, in the heart of India especially, they're all in the lakes, right? So places like in MP or on the lake. So the water depth and the bottom is very important. You need to understand how deep the water is. There are no big waves. It's usually easier to run out, but you also need to check if there's an issue with pollution or whatsoever. Okay, so these are some of the things out from the water from transition. Now, why is this important? If you train accordingly, every scenario and environment is different. Your athletes need to know what's ahead. Okay, I'll share this one race. There is a race in Hong Kong in Disneyland. Hang on, someone just
painting.
Okay, there is this race in Hong Kong in Disneyland. When you get out of the water, there is a 400-meter uphill run. 400 meters from transition, from the water exit to transition. 400-meter uphill run.
I have done that race.
Yep. The question would be, does that affect the athlete if he or she is not prepared? So many people who doesn't know that, they reach there and when they get out of water, they can't ride because, yeah. All right. So exit to T1, exit the water. Again, it's a quick recap. Remove your goggles and cap. You can usually pull it from the back, hold it in the hand, goggles and cap, run to a transition area. And for those of you who are wearing one-piece suits, it's simple. For those of you who are doing age group races, you may need to put on something because you cannot, that's one of the rules in triathlon, you cannot race bare-chested, okay? And pick up your bike after you put on a helmet and you hold the saddle and you push your bike to the mount line. So you cannot mount your bike before the mount line, only after. Okay, so yeah, some of you are thinking of some of the causes after a swim, there's a run, so be prepared for that. So the good transition begins. Why is it so important? You need to, number one, know how to place your bike correctly. So regardless of whether you are an age group, more important for an elite is that your bike has to be facing outwards. So your front wheel needs to be facing outwards. Does that make sense? So when you pick up straight away, you push your bike and you go. Now, if your bike is put in the wrong direction, it's going to be very hard to take it out. For elite racers, if your bike is not placed in the right direction, you will get a problem as well. Okay, so remember, less is more. Do not bring your entire home to the transition area. Okay, don't bring your home to the transition area, and always keep practicing the routines that we have been doing in training. Remember, helmet first thing, and the last thing is your shoes. All right, so practice racking and unracking your bike. It's a very important skill. And one of the tips just now you saw is make sure that your gear is in the correct position. So this is one of the biggest mistakes with a lot of beginner athletes is the gear is too hard. When you put it in the front chain ring and the back and the rear end sprocket, when you get out of transition, you don't have enough strength to push out, okay, to pedal off. So you need to make sure that the gear is in the correct position. It's also important to know that if your chain is too loose, it can drop when running. Okay, so the gears have to be in the right position, not too tight, not too loose. Because if it's too loose, with the pressure of the shoes on the pedals, the chain can actually drop off the chain ring itself. Okay.
I would like to add something over here, like why the preparation for transition is important. If you are a new triathlete or age grouper who has just started, once you get out of swim to a standing position, it might make you feel dizzy, disoriented, or confused. And nobody likes to feel that way in race. And most of the time it has been seen that most of the injuries or accidents happen during this transition or near the transition area due to the switchover between different sports and your body orientations. So make sure you practice well. You are ready to go through this switch over between swim to bike and bike to run.
Okay, thanks, Pooja, for that great tip, guys. So in transition, okay, some of the transition drills that you want to focus on, and you've seen this in the race, is moving the bicycle. So how they push with the bike. If you are familiar, the fastest way to move your bike is holding the saddle. Okay, it's the fastest way to run with the bike. So there are a couple of ways you can mount the bike. You can do the basic mount, which is the slowest. It's the safest, also the slowest. You can do the gliding or the scooter mount, or you can do a flying mount. So just now, I think some of you saw in the men's race how a lot of the men, even the women, they do a flying mount. This mount, the bike is still moving at top speed. So the technical official standing at the dismount line will always blow his whistle, and he will always say, what does he say? Slow down, slow down, slow down. But no one actually does. They're coming in at 35, 40 kilometers an hour, and they run off the bike at that speed. Not at speed, but they just run straight off the bike at 30 plus kilometers per hour. Okay. Some other drills you can practice is putting your helmet on and off very quickly. Okay, it's very important to know. And first, obviously, a helmet needs to be fitted well. Now, those of you who are going to be coaches or are athletes who are trying to get elite points, you will eventually need to race out of India. And when you reach temperate climates, some of the races can be very cold. And if this isn't second nature to you, a lot of the races with very cold swims, a lot of the athletes cannot feel their fingers. And so if you're not comfortable knowing how to even clip in or clip out with numb fingers, that's going to be a huge issue, because if you put on a helmet late, you're going to miss the pack. Okay. And also things you can do is you can play transition games. So you can, so Rajdeep, you talk about practicing twice a week. What do you do? Do you make it into a race? Do you make it in a circuit? Do you go by speed? Yeah. So if you start a young athlete at the age of 11, 12, practicing transition, you carry on for over 10 years, you have probably done over 10,000 times. Just literally 10,000 times or more. Okay, so perfect practice makes perfect. Cool. Now, let's look at some transition tips. Again, don't just stay excited. It's very important to watch. So I've talked about mounting, helmet, watch how they mount, how they dismount, how they put stuff on, where they get on the bikes, where they get off the bikes, how they rack and unrack their bikes. Okay, so pay attention and enjoy.
The transition isn't just a means of going from one discipline to the next. It's part of the race, and having a quick transition could improve your performance further. So we have pulled a few tips from some of the elite and professional triathletes for T1, going from the swim to the bike. So to start off with, getting your wetsuit off after the swim, once it's wet and once you've run all the way to your bike, can be quite hard. So a quick and easy solution is to use a little bit of baby oil on your lower legs and forearms before you put your wetsuit on. Now, you really don't want this stuff all over your hands before you go swimming, so I suggest using a bag or even get a friend to apply it for you. Essentially, the oil acts a little like a lubricant, meaning that you can get your wetsuit off nice and quickly. Rather than placing your helmet on the floor, consider placing it on the handlebars or even hanging from one of the straps. That way it's quick and easy to grab from waist height. And by laying the straps out to the side will hopefully prevent the straps from getting caught or tangled when you go to place the helmet onto your head. Another thing to consider is the side that you place your helmet on. So think about which side you're going to remove and place your wetsuit, and how you're going to grab your bike and run out of transition. So the elites will put the helmet on the same side so they don't have to lean over the bike to grab the helmet. I know it only seems like a minute saving, but all these little things help. Granted, not everyone is doing a flying mount from T1 onto their bike. But if you are, then using elastics could help you massively. Without the elastics, your shoes could end up scraping, bouncing, or even getting caught upside down on the floor. But the real bonus using the elastics is that it holds the shoes in place, ready for you to place your feet onto, or even straight into your bike shoes. Now, how you attach these elastics is entirely up to you, but the most popular method is to attach or loop an elastic from the right shoe to the front mech and the left shoe to the rear quick release. But the other way around is absolutely fine, so just attach it to anything solid or strong on the bike. It's important that you consider the gear that you leave your bike in T1. Now, leaving it in the wrong gear could make the bike mount quite tricky. And generally you want a relatively easy gear so that you can build your momentum up from a slow speed. Obviously, check for any gradient after the mountain line too. For instance, if there's a hill immediately after the mountain line, you may want to opt for an easier gear. You may even want to drop it into the small ring. The last thing you want is to be stuck in too hard a gear trying to build your momentum up. You won't see a whole lot on the floor in an elite transition. To keep things slick, they'll try and attach everything they can to the bike. That means gels, sunnies, and even warm weather gear. The idea being that they'll put on any gear whilst they're on the bike, making their transition much quicker and making sure that they make any packs out of T1. Now, there are different methods to attaching your gels and nutrition to your bike. You can use elastics, or you can even use tape. Now, I definitely used to prefer using something like electrical tape, and I just attached the gel to the top tube along the tear line of the gel. So I'd wrap the tape around, and that meant that when I grabbed the gel, it would open at the same time. And another method is to attach around the main body of the gel, and you could do that again to the top tube, and then just fold back the tape at the end, creating a little tab so it's quick and easy to remove. So there's a handful of tips from the elite triathletes on how to do a quick T1. But if you have any other great suggestions, please drop them in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And you can see more videos like this by clicking on the globe and subscribing to GTN. And to see our 9 essential triathlon skills video, just click here. And to see how to train like a pro on the bike, just click here. The transition.
Okay, the same thing from that video. Just type in the chat one thing new that you might want to change from that video. Okay, so you've seen some couple of good tips for transition put together. Just type in the chat. I'm going to give you 20 seconds. One of the new things which you're going to try in your next training session. Anyone? Type it in. Okay, use your elastics. Nice. How about the rest of you? Okay, helmet on the handlebar. You can actually attach it from the hook. Remember, on the correct side. Anything else? Okay, so that's a good one. You can practice. Okay, so make sure that when you practice putting on your shoes, make sure that it is not on a heavy traffic road. I suggest you find a closed car park, or if you have a nice even patch of grass, you can try to learn how to put the shoes on. Okay, so even if you fall, it don't hurt yourself. Gel, baby oil, that's only if you are using a wetsuit. Okay. How about the rest of you? Anything else you're trying to put in? Okay, yes, you can try the flying mount. So again, try on grass for first time. Okay, and then your shoes and get practice, and you repeat it 5,000 times. All right, so Dr. Rushu, you will get it. Once you got it, 5,000 should be enough. All right, and you can then be a quick transition. Okay, thank you for that input. So remember, perfect practice makes perfect. So we've seen what transition is, and we've gone through quite a number of things. These are some practical messages that you might want to include with cycling as well as transition. Okay, so the key towards becoming a good cyclist and a master at transition is practice skills in a good environment combined with drills. Remember, speed is important, but the speed will come when you've mastered the skills and the drills. So perfect practice makes perfect. Remember, don't try something and get the wrong thing done over and over again. The body creates a poor relationship with your muscles, and then you will never get it right because you're doing the wrong things too many times over and over again, right? Don't forget with cycling, whether it's in a cycling training session or with training within transition, you need to always pay attention to safety and equipment. When there is equipment, there is always bound to be an excess amount of danger. So for those of you who have ever worked with myself or Pooja in India, especially the coaches, or those of you who are planning to become a coach, one of the things that we teach the coaches to do is whenever there is a bike ride, there must always be a bike check every single time. And I am very sure the majority of you, the Ironman guys, you never check your bike. That is my promise to you. I'm very sure the majority of you do not check your bike. And that's something the coaches will always do with the athletes. Never take for granted. People drive their bike to a new place, take it off, they ride, and they come back and they find that they did not lock the skewers.
In fact, for Ironman athletes, their drivers do the maintenance work and fixing work, everything. The car drivers handle the bike, they only ride.
Yeah, okay. So this is something, and those of you who again are working with young athletes, you need to teach the athletes how to check their own bike with supervision. So Sabda, I hope you're doing that. I'm pretty sure you are. Otherwise, I'll be watching you, Coach Sabda. Okay, and there's some other coaches out there. Make sure you always get the bike checks done. Never take it for granted. Okay, cool about that. So what should we check before the bike? So you remember what we talked about in the very first slide. So if you don't, some of you might miss this. What needs to be checked? I'm going to draw this back to this slide. Can you see this slide with Pooja just talked about? Check the brakes. Are they working? Okay. Now, some of you guys are riding with what's a new type of brakes happening right now? They're not rim brakes. They're disc brakes. Disc brakes require a lot of maintenance, and many of you do not take care of your maintenance of the bike. So there will be opportunities of failure. Okay. Handlebars, if you are removing out, putting it out and on, it may be crooked. The headset may be loose. Okay. And then the saddle is not crooked. The chains need to be clean. Clean bikes exactly like your car. All right. The wheels, you need to check, make sure the spokes aren't broken, and the tires, do they have enough air? If they are over inflated, you run yourself into a problem as well. It becomes slippery when the pressure is too high, when the road is wet, especially when you're running over those white paint, becomes slippery. When the tires have too little air, it's difficult to ride, and you run a chance of getting a pinch flat. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. There was a question which someone asked about TT bikes, and TT bikes are not allowed in elite races. But if you are an age grouper, even in your World Triathlon races, the age grouper, you're still allowed. Okay, just make sure that if you are an elite, you need to use the normal standard bikes. So, okay, and there's no regulation for Ironman. You can ride You can ride anything in Ironman.
For age groupers, also only in the draft illegal races.
Yes, yes. Okay, so TT bikes are still allowed, non-drafting races.
No.
Yeah. Okay, cool, nice. How much pressure is too much pressure? Well, it depends. Most of the time, I think anything between 90 and 110 works best. It depends on the weight of the rider as well. If the guy is really light, you can go slightly higher. Some of the tires are a bit different. I don't think I can spell everything in this webinar, but with some of the tubular tires, you can go up to 130 or even more. Don't forget, the harder the tires, the faster they roll. The faster they roll, the more jarring it is. That means when there's a lot of air in the tires, you can feel everything on the road. Up to your jaw and your elbows, you just can feel that. Okay, so usually I'll recommend between 90 and 110. That's a range. It obviously depends. If it's raining, I tend to go towards a 90. Yeah, and it also depends on weight. So, all right. Any special seat? Pooja, do you want to get that? So your special seat, sorry, from my point of view, are like goggles and your toothbrush. I don't know. Guys, your ass is yours. Your butt is yours. You need to find that perfect saddle. Your butt is not the same as my butt. Okay, Pooja, tell us something about that special seat adjustment.
There's nothing like a perfect seat adjustment. Of course, there are certain rules, but of course, there are some rules and regulations for seat height and adjustment, but it's not so much tricky. At the end of the day, it all depends on your comfort level. So make sure you are comfortable on your bike and you have proper center of gravity on your bike. Even
Okay.
World Triathlon allows little bit of adjustments, slight changes is allowed by World Triathlon also, if it's out of the given rules, only if it is very much required. It is genuine.
Okay, cool. Any questions? Sorry, one more thing about the saddle. Try to get it flat, because if it's tilted downwards a little, you get a lot of pressure on your wrist because you're always falling forward. So just make sure that it's level. Okay, yeah. But if you're talking about type of saddle, guys, that is your own discovery. It's your own road discovery, guys. I'm not going to tell you how your butt shape is like. You just need to find the correct saddle. Okay, don't get caught up that just because it's expensive, it's a good saddle. Some people just can't ride the expensive saddles. Okay, so I'm not going to put a thought to that. Nice. I hope you found that useful. Okay, I'm just going to go back. Sorry about that just now. So we have covered quite a fair bit of stuff this evening. Okay, and what I like to do is we went through the bike and transition, if you remember. At the same time, we also went through the swim and the run yesterday. Now, this last video is an integration of everything. It's a women's race with a world-class field. If I'm not wrong, this is at Abu Dhabi. Yes. I think so.
Yes.
And I like you, don't just watch it for the sake of watching. Try to look at all the things we discussed, from the swim to transition, to the cycle, to transition, and to the run. And as much as many of you might not be elite athletes, there are many good things that you can aspire to learn that you can implement even if you're an age group athlete. Okay, so enjoy the show, but at the same time, just pay attention to some of the things we covered over the last 4 days. And I hope you can pick up some of these skills and you can say, so that's how they do it. All right? Enjoy.
Yokohama, Japan not only marked the 4th event on the 2016 WTS calendar, but also the final race in a 2-year Olympic qualification period. With several athletes still looking to book a place in Rio, this was a final chance to impress. The harbour waters were choppy for the 2-lap 750-metre non-wetsuit swim. The USA's Gwen Jorgensen, racing in her 2nd race of the season, was nicely tucked into the pack. A long stream of women exited the water together, but it was Jorgensen's fellow American Summer Cook that led them out, followed by New Zealand's Nikki Samuels. Nothing much between the field as a large group headed to T1. Jorgensen was among them as she searched for a 4th straight win in the Japanese venue.
Good job, girl.
Sorry guys, I think this is the wrong video. Sorry.
This is the same Yokohama one.
Yeah, hang on. I might have gotten the wrong one. Give me a second. My apologies. Let's start again. We got the wrong video. So this is the right one. Pooja, can you see it with Nicholas Brick?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So this is I just played the same video. It's getting late here.
After the 2015 WTS season, the name on everybody's lips was Gwen Jorgensen. But with the seemingly unbeatable American choosing not to race in Abu Dhabi, this was a chance for others to get vital world ranking points on the board at the start of an Olympic year. A perfect setting with warm temperatures and a non-wetsuit swim, and not surprisingly it was Spain's Carolina Routier that led the elite women out of the water. But Pamela Oliveira and Sarah True were right behind her, as were a host of other athletes. True and another American, Katie Zafiras, also had amazing seasons, and the latter was hoping to better her silver medal here over the sprint distance last year. Zafiras had been slightly behind the leaders after the swim, but had soon made up the deficit in the first kilometre of the bike along the Corniche. The lead group had quickly grown to 25, with former world champion Helen Jenkins and strong cyclist Bermuda's Flora Duffy among them. As they reached the 180-degree turn into transition with 4 laps to go, Duffy had a small lead and was trying to pull away from the rest of the field. But she changed her strategy to allow the rest to catch up and work together to share the workload at the front. This is the first time that the UAE capital has staged the WTS race over the Olympic distance, and the 2nd year running, it's been the opening event on the WTS calendar. The leaders now had a 23-second advantage over the chase group, with Australia's Ashley Gentle and London Olympic gold medalist Nicholas Spirik working hard to make up the gap. With a lap to go, their efforts paid off as the two groups came together as they took the bell and raced across the blue carpet for the final time. Jenkins was now very much in contention, having missed much of last season, as was Jodie Stimpson, who hadn't won a WTS race since 2014. Jenkins urged those behind to keep up the pace in the final stages. But with such a large group on a tight course, that would always be problematic, and 500 metres before transition, disaster struck. Several athletes came off their bikes and lost their chances of a medal. Many others were lucky to have got past the pile-up. It was Bermuda's Duffy, one of the fortunate ones that led the leaders into transition. Jenkins and Stimpson had also managed to stay out of trouble. As they left T2, the podium contenders were getting strung out as the shadows lengthened on the Corniche. Spirik had been one of the unfortunate ones to come off the bike as they approached T2. She bravely continued on to transition, clearly in pain, but still managed to set off on the run. A lead group of 5 had now emerged, but France's Emmy Charian was soon dropped as Jenkins, Stimpson, Duffy and Ashley Gentle started to build a lead, and it looked like podium finishes for 3 of those 4. As the final stages approached, Duffy started to fall away, leaving the other 3 to battle it out amongst themselves. Stimpson was looking the stronger as the 2014 Commonwealth Games gold medal winner began to increase her lead. It was Stimpson that finished strongly to take her first WTS win since victory in Cape Town 2 years ago. Gentle came through to take silver and match her previous best in Yokohama last year, while Jenkins, who's battling for the one remaining British women's Olympic spot, came in 3rd. Jodie Stimson got 2016 off to a winning start then in the UAE and took the trophy as the early series leader.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I mean, this winter I can't say it could have gone any better really. I've been in Stellenbosch and training with Lisa, Marie and Darren. It's been a lot smaller group this time in Stellenbosch, but I think we were just very highly motivated. We all are. We haven't made our Olympic spots yet, any of us. So it was a group of that haven't made the spots yet, and we're just extremely motivated to do it.
Okay, so I'm not going to push you to the edge, guys. I just want you to think about some of the things I hope you saw as you put all the three things together this evening. Not just on the bike and the run, bike and the transition, but also from the swim to the cycle to the run. Pooja and myself have been talking a lot from an athlete and coaching perspective. And now I'm just going to address this for those of you out there. There's more than 100 of you out there. Some of you are event organizers, I'm pretty sure, or may even potentially be an event organizer. And what you see for the last couple of evenings showing is world-class races. And something I think ITF is also looking at would be looking at potential event organizers working towards running world-class races like that. Now, obviously, there's a lot of amount of money required, but potentially there are also sponsors. So for those of you who are interested to work towards building India, towards hosting such world-class races, you now have also an idea of what's required. So a selection of venues as well as the location has to be favorable. And this is only for the elite races. So usually the elite races start first and then there's the age group. So I hope you're also able to have a better understanding of what it takes to run a world-class race like a World Cup. And even if you can't run a World Cup or WTS eventually, I'm pretty sure, I think there are hopes that one day India will be able to run a continental cup more frequently. Okay, and so we all need to start from somewhere. So that gives you a good idea of what's required. Can be very exciting. It's definitely more exciting than the longer races. Okay. With that said, let's come back to the slides. So what I want to run through is let's open up and take some questions. I will take the first one, which I saw. Okay, so Sashi, you asked about heartbeat in cycling. Okay, so maybe I'll talk about the heart rate and Pooja can talk about cadence. So in okay, I think it's very hard to use heart rate as a sole indicator. Heart rate is definitely useful, but heart rate has a lot of variance. If you are training using heart rate alone, and if you ask you using the 220 minus your age, it is highly inaccurate. So we can't do a lesson right now on heart rate, but I would encourage you that if you are using heart rate, there's two things you want to take note. One, every athlete has a different range of heart rate. So if you telling people, okay, everyone, let's put your two fingers on your neck and count, and you are not working hard enough, sorry, I think that's totally inaccurate because every different individual has a different heart rate range because nobody's heart beats at the same time. If you're just using one number, you're just saying that all of us are using the same heart. So that said, heart rate can still be very useful in training, in swimming, on running or cycling, but it should be used with another parameter. And that could be watts for cycling, which is the most accurate thing right now, or you could use rate of perceived exertion, meaning how you feel, or if you have no other solutions, you can also use gearing in cycling. Speed would be not a very good indicator in cycling because on the bike, there are so many variables that can affect speed. 30 kilometers per hour could be fast because there is no wind. But if there's wind, headwind coming, 30K can be a lot more effort. If it's tailwind, 30K can also be very little effort. So speed alone in cycling is a very poor indicator. But to answer your question again, don't throw heart rate away. It's still a very useful parameter, but you need to use it, and you need to only, how you utilize heart rate, you need to measure and assess every single person. Okay, so Pooja, maybe you want to help us out with how important is cadence in cycling?
Yes. When it comes to
triathlon.
cadence, yeah, especially in triathlon, when it comes to cadence, let's say you are on very low cadence throughout your bike ride. So what will happen is it's just going to strain your legs. It's going to fatigue your legs. And when you start running, you might end up feeling cramps. You will not be able to run because of that fatigue that you have gathered during your low cadence in your cycling race.
Sorry, Pooja, I need you to unmute yourself. Yeah, thanks.
So that is one of the things. That's the reason that you should go through a very optimum RPM, which is somewhere between 80 to 95. Of course, the terrain also, like the RPM depends on the terrain that you are going to go on. So make sure you are on a easy rotation, easy spin mode whenever you are on your biking, on your cycling side, so that you can run faster. And one more thing, that whenever you are almost about to end your cycling, I would suggest you to keep a higher cadence so that it could help you warm up your blood circulation, your legs during your run, and you can run better. So this is one of the things you should be taking care of while ending your bike and getting in the run.
Thanks, Pooja. Just another tip for all of you, since you're asking a question of cadence. Do remember, if your cadence is too slow on a bike, if you're a gear mesher, I hope you know what a gear mesher is. That means you put a big chain ring and you're riding at 70 RPM, a lot of force. Do remember, when you get off the bike, your legs will only move as fast as the bike cadence. So there is a optimum run cadence. Most of us sit with a very good running cadence of 180 steps a minute, plus or minus 5. Okay, so if you need to run efficiently 180 steps per minute, and if your bike cadence is too low, if you're cycling at 70, which is equivalent to 140, I'm very sure you won't be able to run off the bike well. So it's also important that as triathletes, you also need to know that, don't forget, this is not a cycling race. You still need to run after the bike. Okay, so different from a time trialist. Cool. Okay, next question. Specific recovering stretches? No, the stretches are all the same. Stretches for cycling and running are all the same. What I can suggest you to do is, things you want to stretch out would be to stretch out your hamstrings, quads, calves, glutes, as well as your lower back. Okay, and just to give you a tip, especially long cycling, many of you are handphone users. Okay, type me if you don't use a handphone in the chat. If you don't have a handphone, type me in the chat. No one will type me. So if you are a handphone user, or if you are working in a sedentary environment like me, I spend a lot of time in front of a computer. Chances are it feels very uncomfortable because my shoulders and my neck is always forward. Okay, so Rajashi, it's the same position as you on your bike. So if you're always on a bike, it's the same position. Your neck is always forward and you always hunch over your bike. So one good exercise, stretch I would like to encourage you would be to find an opportunity to stretch and open up your shoulders this way. Okay, so that's something going to help you. Not the best demonstration on Zoom, but I think you get where I'm trying to come from. Try to get out of that hunch, because handphone and computer, you're always like that. And then on the bike, you're always like that. So now you need to get out of the position this way. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Good. Okay, Pooja, and grab the next one. Handlebar height and settle.
So for saddle, what you can do is sit on the saddle, have your foot at 6 o'clock, and try to have a slight bend near your knee. It should not be more than 10 to 15 degrees. So that would be your perfect seat height. And about your handlebar, you should not be stretching your torso too much in front. You should be able to have that 90-degree arm angle whenever you're holding your hoods. So your handlebar should just be there. And your back should be at the 90-degree, perpendicular to your top tube.
Okay, last question for the night. Anyone on cycling or transition? Otherwise, I just saw one question from Amit, aerodynamic position. Okay, so I suggest that you work with a bike fitting specialist. Okay, even as a coach, as much as we do have experience to look at basic bike fits, my take is invest in a good bike fit with a specialist. So I have two things for you to think about. Number one, aerodynamics are important, but it's not the only thing. Do remember that you need to run after your bike. Okay, so if you get too aerodynamic and it affects your breathing and your legs, it's going to affect your run. First thing. Number two, those of you are age group athletes, if you can spend 5,000 US or 10,000 US on your bike, I will highly recommend you to take out 300 to 400 US and invest in a good bike fitter. It is going to be 10 times more worthwhile than your bike itself. So you can ride way faster with a lower end bike and an excellent bike fit versus a 10,000 US dollar bike with a poor bike fit. So that's my recommendation. So it pays to invest in good fits. For those of you who are obviously working with younger athletes like youths, do remember, as I mentioned the other day with Pooja, start off with something cheaper. A second-hand one will do. I know Decathlon, I'm not sponsored by them. I don't work for them. I think Pooja was working with them previously, but like any bike from Decathlon for a young athlete is fine, purely because they will grow out of it. And it's important to develop the skills. Yes, you can use a hybrid for your first race, no problem. You can even use a mountain bike. As I said, the skills will come.
My first race was on a hybrid, and I did my national championship winning gold medal with hybrid.
Yeah. So yeah, start with wherever you can. That's the most important thing. And remember, we had a presentation at LTAD on Tuesday. Yes, Dr. Rekha mentioned that skills are the most important. On top of that, you grow, and so it's not really about the bike. It's really about the development of skills. Okay. Yeah. So I also share one thing since you're asking on this, guys. I know some of us are parents. I am a parent as well. Try as far as possible not to spoil your kids with expensive bikes. It is one of the biggest problems. I know you cannot resist, but the problem is when a young athlete starts off with too expensive a bike or equipment, very high chance that they will be very reliant on it. Okay, what I mean by that is if they are in their early teens, so remember Dr. Rekha talked about specialization. Triathlon is a very late specialization sport. Maybe after the age of 15 or 16, you start investing. Try to get them into simple equipment. So when you spend too much on good equipment with a young athlete, they become very reliant on it. So they tell you, oh, I can't ride fast because my bike is not made of carbon, or my wheels, I can't ride fast because my wheels are not made of carbon. Yeah, so that's one of the things. I don't mean to be discouraging. I'm not putting you guys in uncomfortable, but I think especially those of you who are parents, try to give your kids opportunity to develop their real skills before equipment. Okay. I shared this with Pooja and Coach Sabda from Tamil Nadu as well. When I was working with juniors, I would send my boys home if they came to training with carbon wheels and aero bars. So Sabda, I've had a conversation with you before. And if your guys are listening, your coach was right, it came from me. So I used to send them home. Because I did not want them to rely on special equipment to be able to do. These same boys are racing today. All of them are in the national team, and they have never relied on equipment. So I hope that gives you some motivation, parents and coaches. Okay, cool, nice. So best time of the evening. Is Harish here? Are you here, Harish? Maybe not. Okay. So I don't want to overcommit because I don't know how many prizes there are. So we'll go with 3. Okay, we have 3 prizes tonight.
I think we will have 5.
5? Okay, 5. Okay. So remember, fastest fingers first. Okay, guys. So open your chat box now. Fingers on the keyboard. Those are using a handphone, too bad. Be quick. First question, cycling or transition? Okay. It's a very fast question. Can you cycle your bike in a transition area? Yes or no? Okay, answers out. Sorry, the first one you didn't type a no. I don't know, you type a JO. So the first one would be Kishaf. Yes. Keshav. Okay, congratulations, Kishaf. Next question, Pooja.
Give me one drill for bike balancing, bike handling skill.
Oh, that's fast. Single hand bunny drill or everything. Sorry, you guys.
Just one.
Who was that?
Okay, Aditya.
Okay. Yeah. No. No, not that. Before that.
So Ujjwal mentioned two drills.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
that's
I just
fine.
asked for one.
Yeah,
so
let's give it to
Ujjwal.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Rajdeep, stop sending private message to me. Put it in the main chat. You go fast, but you answered me.
You are not winning anything. You're not winning
Yes.
anything, Rajdeep.
Okay. Third question for the day. Okay. So, sorry. What is one way you can utilize to hold your cycling shoes on the bike in transition? What can you utilize? Plastic. Yes, first one. First one is Aditya. Okay, same guy. So we're gonna scroll down. You've won a prize.
You gave prize to Ujjwal, so Aditya is.
Okay, Aditya, you get the elastic bands. Nice. Okay.
Let me just write it down. I'm sorry. So we have Keshav, Ujjwal, and Aditya. Okay, yeah. You can ask the next one. I'll ask the last one.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask something about transition as well. Okay. When you are going, when you are getting off the bike, from bike to run, how should you park your bike on the rack? Is it, I'll give you 2 options. Is it front wheel first or rear wheel first? Front wheel first, yes.
Aryan.
Sorry. No.
Aryan.
Who wrote front wheel? Front wheel.
Yeah. Aryan.
Okay, front wheel. Nice. Sabda, any side. My goodness. Okay, so front wheel first, guys, when you're coming back. Okay, last question.
Okay.
Pooja, all yours.
So when you are coming back, when should you dismount? Before the dismount line or after the dismount line?
First one. That's so fast.
Okay, who's the first one?
Before.
Kavish.
Kavish. Okay. Cool. Done. Well done, guys. Okay, so that's it. I hope you had great fun. Just to wrap it up, one thing for yourself this evening would be if you can reflect on one thing you learned today, that'd be great. And if you can take that one thing and bring it back to either teaching it or doing it yourself, I think that's going to be helpful. Okay, so remember, transition is the fourth element of triathlon itself. I hope you managed to pick something up this evening. What's going to happen tomorrow is Dr. Rekha is going to come back with talent identification. And this is going to be interesting for those of you who are keen. You can be parents or coaches or even athletes yourself to understand what it takes if you are looking at pursuing a slightly more competitive route in the sport itself. So I'm going to be showing, Dr. Rekha will be showing some numbers with myself, and then we're going to discuss. So it's talent identification tomorrow, talent identification and development tomorrow. Okay, I hope you had fun. Pooja, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just make sure you keep everything in mind and train smartly.
Yeah. Don't forget, guys,
Like
no
Eugene
help.
always says, perfect things. Yeah, perfect things, perfect practice makes you perfect. So focus on that.
Yeah. And remember,
Transition is the fourth element of triathlon and most important one.
And don't forget, guys,
Everything depends on that.
No helmet, no ride. Okay, so I'll see you guys tomorrow, back again, same time. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Bye. You're welcome.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Pooja, madam. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you,
madam.
Pooja, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Are you out of your mind?